But generally speaking, the cases that I see have the most problems are ones where the immigration officer either does not believe that you're living together or you haven't submitted enough evidence to prove that you're living together. Hey guys, I focus my immigration law practice on marriage-based green cards, and there has been an issue that has been coming up over and over again, so I thought I would make a video about this specific topic. So when you and your spouse attend the USCIS interview to get your marriage-based green card, the USCIS officer is going to want to see that you guys are living together. There are some situations where you do not have to be living together. For example, if one spouse is in college or if there's a complicated and temporary work situation. But generally speaking, the cases that I see have the most problems are ones where the immigration officer either does not believe that you're living together or you haven't submitted enough evidence to prove that you're living together. This will sometimes come up in the context of, for example, a US citizen who already owns their home and then the immigrant spouse comes in and lives with them. You're not gonna have any evidence. There's no joint lease agreement. There might be some mail that's addressed to both spouses that comes there. All the utilities are probably gonna be going to the US citizen spouse because that spouse owned the property beforehand. It's annoying to just change up ownership of the utilities. It might not even be possible in your state or with your utility company. So that presents the question, how do you prove that you actually live together if you don't have a joint lease agreement? The reality is that if you don't have a joint lease agreement or joint mortgage or definitive proof that both of you are living in the same facility, same building, the immigration officer is most likely going to ask you guys additional questions. Now, there are exceptions. This doesn't apply to everybody. For example, if you guys have like 2 US citizen children together, the officer is probably going to pay less attention to whether or not you've proven that you guys are physically living together. I mean, that's pretty strong evidence, but generally speaking, the officers want to see that you guys are living together. And one of the things that I encourage a lot of people to do is to get driver's licenses or state IDs or any identification from both spouses showing that they're living at the same residence. This is easier to do for some people versus others. Specifically, people who have social security numbers might have an easier time, especially in states that do not allow undocumented or people who are out of status immigrants to get driver's license. Like for example, New York State passed something called the Green Light Initiative a couple years ago that allowed you to get a driver's license even if you cannot prove that you're lawfully present in the United States. And this is beyond the scope of this video, but it's generally good policy. You want anyone who's driving on your roads to show that they're licensed, passed any road tests, understand the rules of the road. So it's good policy. It's good for citizens and non-citizens alike to have driver's licenses for immigrants. But not all states allow this. There are a handful of states where immigrants are able to easily get state IDs or driver's licenses. And something that a lot of my clients say is, I can't get a driver's license in the state I'm living. If you live in a state that does not allow you to get a driver's license, then this doesn't really apply to you. When you go to the interview, the immigration officer is just gonna ask you more questions to prove that you guys are living together. But if you live in a state where you are able to get a driver's license, it's a good idea for both spouses to have driver's licenses or state IDs that list the exact same address. I can't tell you how many times I've asked the spouses if they have driver's licenses listing the same address. And the US citizen spouse is the culprit here who says, I just never updated my license. You need to update your license. You're the US citizen spouse. You can easily prove you live at that address. And it's a good idea for both spouses to have IDs listing the same address, because when you go to these interviews, one of the first things that the immigration officers will sometimes ask you is for each of your state IDs or driver's licenses. And that's low-hanging fruit for the officer to look. Why are these addresses different? Is one of the spouses not actually living where they're claiming to be living? And more questions will flow from that. A lot of my clients have to go to these interviews and say, sorry, officer, I just never updated my driver's license, but I promise we really do live here. And that's just not the situation you want to be in, so something to keep in mind. If you are considering going through the marriage-based green card process and you want to speak to an immigration lawyer to either handle your case, create a strategy because you're not far enough along right now to file a case, or you just want to prepare with someone before your green card interview. You want to create a strong list of updated evidence to bring with you so that your interview is as smooth as possible, you can schedule a consultation directly with me, Pouyan Darian. You can find my information to schedule a consultation in the video description below. I would be happy to speak with you and assist you in any way that I can. If you're new to my channel and you want to stay up to date on the latest things that are happening in immigration world under the Trump administration, be sure to subscribe. I put out a few videos each week giving you my take as an immigration lawyer on what's happening on the ground. So if you want to stay up to date on that stuff, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for another video.